All right, here we are at the beginning, near the trailhead near Albert Mountain. Everybody's stretching out.
Honey bun and scotch. Honey bun and scotch. That's important.
You got anything you want to say, Chris?
I hope I'm ready for this.
Cooper, are you ready? Are you mentally ready?
I'm mentally ready.
Physically ready? Question marks? All right, we're good. Get this done.
Day 1. The time had come to begin our adventure. We had researched our trek extensively, or at least Chris and McCracken did. Sent enough text over the past month to make a teenage girl envious. Staged vehicle 2 at our destination, and we were now sitting atop Albert Mountain in North Carolina, thanks to our trusty driver, Cheryl. We were ready to set out on what we would soon discover was one of the hardest and most rewarding experiences of our lives. I knew deep down this would change our lives forever, or at least for an extended weekend. We donned our 40-pound packs filled with $2,467 worth of hiking and camping gear, which included a pound of scotch each, and set off into the unknown. For the next few hours, we talked, we laughed, and once we hit the inclines, a few of us actually stopped to throw up, but we forged ahead. The trail offered a diverse terrain starting with a canopy of trees that looked similar to magnolia leaves, which had an almost jungle feel. The temperature was mild but humid, and the sun pierced through the blanket of leaves like sporadic beams of light. As we walked, we continually adjusted our packs, trying to find that sweet spot that would distribute the weight and pain from our shoulders to our hips and legs. I have to confess that great effort was spent ridiculing Chris about his trekking poles the week prior. I thought he looked like an out-of-control cross-country skier in dirt. But the deeper we went into the trip, and I found how beneficial they were, it was like his discovery was equivalent to the vaccine for polio. He was a genius. After a few hours, we hit Rock Gap parking. A short glimpse of civilization with a few people mingling around. We continued on up the trail when we noticed Coop had stopped to talk to a stranger. We didn't know if the guy was selling something or offering male companionship for the night. Nevertheless, we quickly disappeared into the woods. At this point, the path became steeper and steeper. Those unused muscles were abruptly awoken and fully exerted. The trail just went up and up and up. We quickly found out why Chris had sent us all those maps with very detailed distances. I guess we were supposed to study them or something. We just figured that since he had been researching this in spring of 2004, we could just go to him for any information we needed. And he did serve as a wealth of information throughout the journey. However, our fearless leader was a little unsure of the next camp location, and the calculated distance seemed to have a margin of error of plus or minus 2 miles, usually plus.
To our first shelter for lunch. What's the name of this shelter, Chris? Oh, great place for lunch. I got a water source, nice picnic table to have lunch.
So, are you going to cook your ramen noodles?
I don't have any noodles. I'm just pulling more.
Ramen noodles.
So Cooper's going to try the privy, which is the restroom out here at the shelter. And he went out there with his little toiletries, and he's about to gag. I think he's gonna throw up his lunch or something. So I don't think he can do it. He's coming back. Show him coming back down the trail over here. Right there he is coming down the trail.
Right.
See him?
Yeah, we just heard a bunch of gagging going on.
Go interview him and ask him what happened. Good God, man. You got that off your refrigerator?
What you're going to do for one, but that's another trip that out.
Cooper, what happened out there?
I'd rather dig a hole.
Is it the smell that made you gag, or?
Oh, it's old rotten poop.
Oh, welcome to day one.
Ready, head back. Word.
Heading out.
Leg two.
Yeah, look at that view. Let's see if I can find it better. Woo! Talk to us, Finley. What's going on right now? What are you feeling?
That's quite a long haul, and we just got loaded up with water, so we're all full on water, and we're going up a very large hill. Look up there.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
It's got a long way to go.
Incline here.
We scaled yet another mountain and back down. With over 2 miles left to go to camp, the bottom of the sky fell out, and we were drenched in no time. This is about the time that my feet began to pound. Every toe was beginning to blister, and I was secretly plotting Chris's demise. The group had gained some serious ground on me and increasing the gap as every second went by. Not that I could do anything about it, because they were obviously trying to set a new AT land speed record. The only way I could catch them was by falling off the side of the mountain and intercepting them at the bottom. I will say that Chris came back to check on me. He gave me a great pep talk, watched me tape up my feet, and then mentioned that he could not carry me emotionally the whole trip, so man up. I hate him. At this point, Coop was navigating the trail like a seasoned professional on uppers. Baffling, because only a few hours prior he was a candidate for cardiac arrest. Second wind is an understatement. I haven't seen a comeback like that since the U.S. hockey team in 1984. Kudos, Coop. McCracken, with head down, was determined to beat the rain and was the workhorse of the group. As we made our descent, we came to a beautiful bubbling brook that blocked the way to a large clearing that would be our home for the night. The rain subsided and we scrambled to establish shelter and collect firewood in case the storm returned. Not long after we set up camp and settled in, a few through hikers, those crazy hippies that feel it necessary to walk to Maine, came into the camp. They asked to share the campsite, and we politely obliged. It was a young man and woman about late 20s, named Rocklicker and Pinecone. Knowing that their parents would never be so cruel as to name them that, we knew these were their trail names. Rocklicker had the hair of Shaun White with a beard, and Pinecone had just graduated from Northwestern and had the calves of Miss Olympia. They told us that by the end of your travels, every hiker needs to establish a trail name. I would find out later you have very little input in your name. A few more through hikers joined us later. There was Rockman. He rolled his own cigarettes and sold them for $1 apiece so he could save up for a pizza. His girlfriend, Princess Skinner, had gotten her name from skinning and cooking a rattlesnake they found on the trail the night before. Then there was Danimal.
Okay, here we are, day 2. It rained throughout the night. We're all good. We met some new friends, joined up with us to camp. We're here at this beautiful spot, talking to some fun people. Everybody's picking up a trail name. What do you think there, Finley?
I think this has been a great time. Had some great people show up. Great location. So, good first day.
What do you think, Coop?
Enjoying it. Enjoying it.
Day two. Day two. You got anything to say there, Jeff? Tenderfoot?
I'll put it on, brother. Try not to cry.
We got some new friends over here. Dan, you mind if I put you on camera for a minute, man? Just getting a quick clip. All the people we meet, man. So, this is Danimal.
How's it going?
Wayne. This is Rockman over here. Rockman, say hello. Woo. This is Princess Skinner because she killed and skinned a rattlesnake and ate it. This is Pinecone. This is Rock Liquor. They're from New Hampshire. Through hikers going all the way to Maine.
I pulled a pouch out of my chest and left this big gaping hole there. And I was like, oh man, like, so I'm looking at
We are packing up camp. Getting ready to move out. Here we are, we just started out. Going straight up a mountain.
Rough start for day 2.
Rough start. Probably can't tell, but this is a pretty good incline going up the side of this mountain. But you can tell by the side views. Yeah, there you go. Check out what we just came up. And this is after walking for about 30 minutes. So let's continue on.
Day 2. After a somewhat sleepless night with a shirt as a pillow and the absence of my body pillow, I awoke to the sounds of our fellow campmates preparing a breakfast that you would find in most Russian prisons. We ate, packed up our belongings, and began one of the hardest ascents yet. The first section was 2 miles straight uphill. How is this possible? The trail never seemed to level off. When it did crest, we had a few moments of flat ground. However, the trail was 12 inches wide and the edge dropped off about 200 feet. Now, at a 60-degree grade, you wouldn't necessarily fall all the way to the bottom, but I'm pretty sure the tree trunks would snap your back or neck and stop you in your tracks. Pretty exhilarating, actually. Throughout the day, we would climb to an elevation of over 5,000 feet. Before we reached our summit, we came to a small former campsite with a fire ring and some logs to rest our butts. Knowing that the shelter was near, I told the guys I would go ahead and scout things out. Completely out of water, I walked faster and faster, hoping to hear the beautiful sound of that flowing stream. When it came into view, I gave the crew call of "Hoo-doo!" and the rest followed. We had made it to the Siler mountain shelter and a highly coveted water source. There was an older gentleman there named Ohio. He was in his late 60s, maybe 70s, a retired pastor. He was hiking 130 miles alone in about 12 days. Impressive. He was a nice man and had some great stories, and a pretty good resource of information as well. We decided to set up our tents roughly 60 yards away from the shelter in a small circle, kind of like wagons in the Old West. This enabled us to not only create our own little village, but would later learn it would also allow us to distance ourselves from Ohio's deafening snore that sounded somewhat like Godzilla driving a freight train being chased by a tornado. We returned to the shelter to prepare dinner and take cover from the rain again.
All right, here we are. Just woke up morning, day 3, about 6:30 in the morning. We got to get up and rolling today. We got a big day. Got some rain last night, as you can see. Stayed dry inside.
And in my grippies.
So, Cooper's in his grippies.
Morning.
Well, we got an awesome sunrise coming. As you can see, got a lot of hiking to do today. What's going on here? The morning, day 3 for us.
So we've got rained on twice, but it's worked out well as far as getting our tent set up. We're at Siler Gap. Today, we took an easy day yesterday because we had a hard day the first day. Today's going to be a very hard day. It's uphill a long way. We got a lot of hiking, so we're having some breakfast, getting fueled up, and ready to go.
Got some new friends here. This is Gator in Ohio.
Day 3. Early start today. Chris informs us that we have 10 miles of rough terrain to go. We left the shelter, and right around the corner the trail began to go up, drastically. A half-mile climb that was borderline ridiculous. We huffed and puffed, and Finally came to a large field that gave us a look at Siler Bald, a simple trail through a delicate meadow that led straight up to a spectacular photo op. We laughed at it, turned right, and continued on. We traversed the trail with varying terrain, and after a few hours came to another small clearing. This looked like a perfect spot for lunch. Hiking boots off, Crocs on. We arrived at different times as we had spread out over the last few miles. I arrived first, followed by Chris and McCracken. But what's wrong with this picture? Where's Coop? Knowing that he had the inner spirit of a woodsman and would be along shortly, we began to prepare lunch. None of us could have ever guessed that ramen noodles could rival the cuisine of a fine restaurant. But at the time, and under the circumstances, it was better than Chef Carson's maple leaf farm duck at Bacchanalia. Okay, then maybe that's pushing it. Out of the clearing, trudging along up the hill, Coop made his way the last few steps and joined us for a well-deserved rest. He told us of his adventure up the mountain and how the exertion was causing him to see flashes and fields of white lights. Normally, one would have to go downtown and visit Acid Larry to achieve such visions. But Coop did it by climbing a mountain with limited water and a honey bun. After a little rest, some electrolyte tablets, and a lot of water, we brought him back to earth and soldiered on. We packed up, made a few sounds that you would normally hear coming from a nursing home, and started out to finish one of the hardest days yet. As we began the climb, like usual, the group began to spread out apart bit by bit. Trudging along, we all were feeling the effects of our non-athletic lifestyles. Now, I knew the AT would be challenging, but this was crazy. For the next 4 hours, we climbed that damn mountain, and not once did the trail give us a break. It never seemed to let up. There was no going back. Giving up was not an option. One foot in front of the other, upward and onward. But our suffering would soon pay off. Once we reached Waya Bald, there was a fire tower that overlooked most of the state. Some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen. We rested for a bit, captured that moment on Kodak, took in the scenery, and continued on. At the end of the day, we finally reached the Cold Spring shelter. But Chris wanted to go just a little further. No justification, no reasoning, just a cruel taunt for his suffering fellow hikers. He was suffering too, but I think he had gone numb a few miles back and wasn't thinking clearly. We agreed, leered at him, and continued on to Lick Log Gap. A large clearing in the woods, our temporary home. Every camper knows that the second you arrive at camp, you establish 3 things: shelter, water, and fire. Shelter, check. Fire, roaring. Water, not sure. We knew there was a water source within a half a mile, but weren't sure which direction. Chris had hiked ahead up the trail and checked it out, but nothing. We had remembered seeing on the map that there was a water source due west of us. We looked west and saw nothing but a thicket of woods with no path. McCracken gathered the water bottles and set off into the abyss. He came back an hour later with all containers full. Later we sang songs about his heroism and fortitude. A few hikers would pass through as we were setting up, 2 of which were sisters from Pennsylvania. Looked like they were...
Yep. Tell me what this is, Chris.
Well, see, so McCracken was a little jealous of my little seat.
Nice
here.
space seat.
It's nice. So this is his version of man bush in the woods.
So I improvised with leaves. It's pretty ingenious and it works perfect.
You can see his little indention where his little butts was.
Let's go. Nice cushion. Our friends are still over there. From Costa Rica, actually. Good people.
My tent was already down.
I did. It won't take me but a few minutes. Let's go check on Tracy. Where's Tracy? Tracy's still bedded down. Let's go check on him. Good morning.
That's some earplugs.
Day 4.
Day 4. Goal for the day. Walk, eat, walk, gaze, walk, eat, pass out. Time to get an early start as we had a lot of ground to cover. I had to admit, going that extra distance the night before really did give us a leg up for today. Chris, I won't doubt you again for at least the next 12 hours. The first mile was one of the most enjoyable yet. A rolling path with very little elevation change that meandered through the forest. That rare, flat trail that had eluded us for so long. A path that finally allowed us to gaze in wonderment of where we were and what we were experiencing. And then, it was over. Back to uphill. We spread out as usual, but not by much. As we all met up at the next waypoint, we replenished our water supply, rested, and saw some of our trail friends from before. We discussed lunch and decided to go a few miles ahead and stop at Rocky Bald. I repeat, McCracken. Rocky Bald. We're gonna have lunch at Rocky Bald. There was a small offshoot trail to Rocky Bald with a clearly marked sign saying, Rocky Bald, this way. I decided to take off a little early, reach the side trail, and thought it would be a nice gesture to leave a hint. I created an arrow made of almonds and craisins pointing to the trail to Rocky Bald. As I climbed halfway up the rocky face, Chris had caught up quickly. Pretty intense climb just for lunch, we thought, but I told him I would go up and check it out. He instructed me to give 1 hoo when I reached the top, and 2 hoos if it's worth coming up all that way. Well, the jokester that I am, once I got around the corner and out of sight, I gave the hoo. He didn't need to know that it was just a little further than I let on. Once we reached the top, it was the most spectacular view. Gentlemen, we dine. Not long after, Coop came up over the crest. He dropped his pack, poles, and, unfortunately, his pants. He was really ready to relax. Some time went by, and no McCracken. No way did he miss the turn. The sign, the arrow of almonds, the 5-minute discussion at the shelter of where we were headed. Something was amiss. How could he have missed the signs, much less such a creative directional made from a delicious nut? We finished eating, and I told the guys that I would hoof it and try to catch up to him. We would meet at the next agreed upon shelter. Trying to double time it, I came out of the woods and hit an old forest road. And there, sitting on the side of the road, was Ohio. His hike had come to an end, and he was waiting for his ride. We talked about our day, he gave me the rest of his water, and we bid each other farewell. Oh, and he had not seen McCracken either. I'm starting to think that McCracken is so stealthy he might just be a ninja. This was the beginning of Tellico Gap. As I peered across the road to find the continuation of the trail, I spotted a small opening in the woods with that all too familiar white blaze on one tree. I continued on, and not even 100 yards up the mountain, the rain came once again. I scrambled to get my poncho out, covered myself and my pack, stretched a little, took some deep breaths, and began my ascent. Because the next 2 hours would be, you guessed it, straight uphill.
Well, somehow I got here before everybody else. This is the next shelter. It's a Wesser Gap, we believe, or I believe. Anyway, it's the next shelter, which is where we are supposed to stop for the night. Not a whole lot to it, but at least they have a table. I don't know what happened to Chris and Jeff, if they got off the trail and ate lunch or something, but I finally stopped and had my own lunch. Looks like I'm ahead of everybody, so I'm going to sit tight and wait on the boys to show up.
Day 5. It's finally here. The day that will end in beer, cheeseburgers, and the most glorious hot shower we've ever known. Having gone to sleep around the time that Wheel of Fortune starts, I had no choice but to wake when the mountain did. still dark, but hearing signs of life. Being the first time we actually slept in the shelter, the normal sounds of the early morning were a little different. The normal symphony of sounds from a bevy of animals and insects gave way to the gentle rumble of 4 men snoring and excessive flatulence. Ah, nature. I stepped away to complete my last journal entry. The mountain is slowly coming to life now. The multitude of sounds are incredible. Not one peep from man, not a car horn, or a chattering of machinery. The soft sounds were deafening. I don't think I've ever just sat and listened to such a simple concert. Taking the time to differentiate between the birds' songs or hear the wind come from a distance and touch every leaf as it blows through. It was a wonderful feeling of peace, and for a moment felt like nothing else existed. This was really the first time that I was able to absorb myself in the forest. We had about 6 miles to go today, and everyone was thinking about the NOC, or Nantahala Outdoor Center, and that glorious cheeseburger. As we set out, it began to rain. Normally this would not be cause for concern, but today was a lot of downhill trekking over rocks, roots, and mud-covered terrain. Our worry was quickly justified. All 4 of us had managed to stay on our feet the entire trip without incident, but today was different. I took about 4 spills, Chris almost went off the edge of the mountain, and Coop snapped both of his poles with a pretty good rib contusion. I'm not sure if McCracken went down or not. I think he's as sure-footed as a mountain goat. After a few hours of hiking and pounding our knees and calves into submission, we came to an incredible opening with a tall canopy of trees. At the bottom was a small stream with ice-cold water that was exhilarating. We rested for a while and calculated that we had 1 mile left to the NOC. At that pace we were doing that day, heaven was only 30 minutes away. We packed up and headed for home base. As we got closer, we could see signs of life and hear the rushing sound of the Nantahala River. Although we cherished the sounds of the mountain and the lack of outside world for a few days, we were happy to get back and look forward to actually peeing inside for a change. We were also emerging from the wilderness with new names. McCracken, always concerned about pack weight, had brought an assortment of creams, salves, and balms, but not in their original containers. That was way too heavy. He had a smear of each. He is now Medicine Man. Chris seemed to really enjoy the cool, gentle winds the forest produced and would let everyone know about it every time the mountain breathed. He is now Cool Breeze. Coop had introduced himself to a few hikers as Cooper. Probably having mumbled from exhaustion, it sounded like Cougar. And coupled with his freakishly fast downhill speed he sustained, he is now Cougar Downhill. And then there's me. I was happy with Jeff and not even getting a trail name. But after Chris and his creative juices started flowing, the only fitting name he could muster up is Tenderfoot. And as a side note, that was only the first day. I was killing it the rest of the trip. As we took our last few steps on the Appalachian Trail, we dropped our packs and beelined it to the local restaurant for some warm food and beer. The smell of 4 men having not bathed for almost a week wafted throughout the restaurant and quickly overpowered the aroma of the freshly prepared food. But at this point, we didn't give a crap. We stuffed ourselves and then quietly sat, digested, and reminisced about our trip. Glad we did it, exhausted from our efforts, and secretly planning our next adventure. Sincerely, Medicine Man, Cool Breeze, Cougar Downhill, and Tenderfoot.
5 days of hiking up and down mountains. We are at the NOC.
up, guys?
No broken bones.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Chris.
I think we set a pretty lofty goal, trying to get about 45 miles in 5 days for us at least. And I think we did a good job. It was not too bad, but certainly challenging. So, and I'm really proud of everybody that also stuck together. Got some good things done, so it feels really good.
Yes, it does. Finally at the finish line. Let's see.
Cold beer and a
Cold beer and a hamburger. Yeah. Let's see. You got any words? Wisdom?
You know what? I'm proud of all of us for doing it. It was definitely a challenge. I have a newfound respect for all the thru hikers. But at this point, we're all ready to chow down on some food.
Absolutely. Can we
Burgers,
see that?
fries,
Can we see
beer.
that wound yet? What side were you on? Oh, there's a little accident today.
Sleep now, restless one. 'Cause I ain't never seen a night that didn't have a dawn. Spring brought rain, summer brought the fall. Fox said goodbye to their home. Almost been a year, my love for you has grown. And this weathered photograph is all I have to show.
Oops.